Before we begin this ultimate countdown, and yes, I am including every map, remake, and remaster in all the mainline games. So that's World at War, BO1, 2, Exo Zombies, BO3, IW, World War II, Black Ops 4, Cold War, and Vanguard. I'm not leaving anything out. And I do have some criteria on how I will be ranking all these maps. So be forewarned that this list may seem wacky in places, but remember, this is my personal perspective and preference when it comes to zombies. What I find fun and what I get out of each experience. Creativity, replayability, and fun are the most important things to me when it comes to zombie maps. So sit back, grab a snack, grab a drink, and enjoy. There is absolutely nothing positive that I can say about Infection. The layout is terrible, the map is ugly, and the mechanics are the worst on any zombies map that has traditional rounds. The gassing of areas of the map, limiting where the player can go, is an awful mechanic. This was the first map to introduce forced objectives onto the player, and it was executed in the worst possible way. Nobody on this earth likes escort missions. They are terrible, boring, slow the game down to the speed of the AI, and force the player to stop playing the way they want and play the way the game wants them to play, or suffer heavy penalties. All of these issues drag down a map which is already in the worst zombies game engine. Exo's pack system, the overpricing of everything, the copious amounts of bosses, and the EMZs would make any map near unbearable. But Infection's own mechanics drags it down somehow even further, making it the worst zombie map of all time. All of the added power-ups, grenades, and little features do little to help this map. They are nothing more than distractions to the, again, terrible mechanics of both this map and Exo Zombies as a whole. The first instance of humans that shoot at you. There is a reason all enemies and zombies that have long-range attacks are projectiles and not hit scan. Having to fight off AI that shoot you while you try to disarm bombs while zombies are chasing you is infuriating. As is the penalty for failure, more gassing of the map, limiting the playable space. The Wonder Weapon is cool in concept, but lacking in execution. It, like all non-explosive weapons in Exo Zombies, is shockingly underpowered, and the constant packing of your gun leaves little in the way of points to spend on anything else. Carrier may have more open environment to jump around with, but the narrow hallways that connect them are nothing but funnels to trap the player. The only redeemable quality of Carrier is that it's not as bad as Infection. Dead Ops never interested me much at all, and by the third iteration, it had outstayed its welcome. I don't find any enjoyment in Dead Ops Arcade 3. It's tiresome, repetitive, bloated, and boring. The idea of making a simple arcade twin-stick shooter that is meant for 15 minutes of fun into an open-world exploration with backtracking was a terrible idea. It's unclear what the player is supposed to do, let alone where to go. Nothing about Dead Ops 3 is compelling. It's all something that we've seen before, and what little it does add only muddles the mode even further. And the visibility is a big issue. With the amount of textures and high poly graphics on screen, everything becomes so cluttered it makes it nearly impossible for me to see the enemies, leading to an extremely frustrating and unfair time. Dead Ops 2 suffers from less of the issues that plague 3. The visibility is still a huge problem on certain areas. The arsenal of weapons is slightly better than its later entry, but it's still far too derivative of Dead Ops 1, that there isn't much reason to replay it. It gets old very fast. I would rather down myself just to get it over with, as I don't have the patience or interest to even play very far into this. Outbreak would be the most underwhelming zombies experience had it not been for Exo Zombies' awful game mechanics. The decision to give the player an exosuit and then constantly take it away, making it nearly impossible to play the game, still baffles me to this day. The map doesn't even lend itself well to the exosuit at all. Only 2 areas really give you the freedom of movement to even use it effectively, and even then, there is no flow to the game. no discernible pattern to the zombies, no way for the player to predict how or when to move to avoid being hit. The infection rounds do nothing but stop the gameplay and force the player to camp in one singular spot. There are no options for gameplay here, due to the ineffectiveness of the weapons and the rate of which zombies spawn and hit you. Coming after Origins, this was the most disappointing experience Call of Duty Zombies has ever given us. A map that doesn't even come close to being decent. I do not understand the mentality of forcing the player to do things they don't want to do. When the game finally gives us a map with an open enough layout and a wonder weapon that complements it, they ruin it by forcing the player into bland, repetitive, and irritating boss fights against their will. Story should never come before good gameplay, and taking me out of my game to shove me into a room to fight DJ Oz isn't fun. Neither is the navigation. This map has a very confusing and maze-like structure. Not even knowing where I am doesn't help when I'm trying to find perks or avoid the undead. Not even the Goliath suit can salvage this absolute mess. There's nothing I can say about Outbreak that I haven't already in my previous video, Why TREYARCH is Killing Zombies, so I'll make it quick. Outbreak is everything wrong with modern zombies. It's boring, soulless, has none of the enjoyment or challenge of classic zombies, and the objectives get repetitive very fast. It's nothing but reused assets not meant for zombies, with zombies shoved into it. There is nothing engaging about running around in a giant empty field for 5 minutes just to get to an objective eerily similar to the one you just did 2 worlds earlier. I get nothing out of Outbreak. There is no difficulty curve. It's either pathetically easy or overwhelmingly annoying. The Tortured Path was nothing more than an experiment gone wrong. It was a different kind of mode that tried to incorporate objectives into zombies, but it ended up being completely half-baked. It's nothing more than kill a certain zombie type on a small survival map. It's honestly a waste of a mode. And the boss fight at round 10 is really terrible. The game completely fails to communicate to the player how to damage the boss, and it ends up being a complete runaround. Dead Ops is perfectly inoffensive. It's entirely playable, but nothing more. It provides that 15 minutes of fun, but like the following Dead Ops, it gets old quick. Dead Ops 1 feels like the most replayable, the weapons feel like they have more damage to them, and all of the bloat and fluff isn't present here. Dead Ops isn't the kind of experience that interests me, but I'm sure with friends, it could be more tolerable. I mean, what do you want me to even say here? There's nothing. Nothing at all to talk about. It's the most bland, bare-bones experience you could possibly play. It has 1 door, 4 wall buys, and a box. You can barely train and barely camp. This doesn't even have the simplistic charm of something like Knocked, because at least that was the groundwork for zombies. There is simply no fun or excitement to be had here. Without a doubt, the worst survival map ever made. Well, step up from Bus Depot, but not even enough to reach the standards of Verrucht. Farm may have the basic 4 perks on it, but that's all it is. Basic. It's the most generic map ever conceived, and the dull, gloomy atmosphere doesn't help much. Actually, no, it hurts it. Can I be done talking about Farm now? I've come to the realization that Nuketown Zombies as a concept and in its execution could never work. The most defining element of Nuketown is also its biggest weakness. You ever wonder why there aren't more perks on this map? Why there's only the 4 original perks and Pack-a-Punch? Because the very nature of the perk system that this map has would actively make the map worse. It can already take up to 18 rounds before Jug can drop in solo. But imagine if this map had Stamina and Tombstone, or even Mule Kick. You could potentially not get Jug until the 30s. That's the biggest problem with Nuketown. Its own random perk mechanics literally prevent it from being improved. Terra Maledicta's biggest issue is the lack of effort. The fact that the only new objective added here is similar to ones that have already existed is a tremendous letdown. As is the fact of all the objectives on Duran Fong return on this map. There is simply no reason to ever play it. The Easter egg is the laziest and most underwhelming egg ever, if you can even be called one. And the only original thing about this map, the Decimator Shield Wonder Weapon, can also be found on the Archon. Terra Maledicta offers nothing unique and is a complete waste of time. Reusing assets is something that happens a lot in zombies. Most of the time, it's understandable or even fun when it's done right. However, Beast from Beyond's issues arise from the fact that it's made up entirely of reused assets. The time the devs put into the Mephistopheles boss fight left little to the making of a good map, which is a shame. The location is interesting, and the fact that the map incorporates the theater as well as the space station is quite entertaining. What isn't is how this game handles its boss zombies. The cryptids do not mesh well with the health system in a zombies mode, and the devs knew that they were too much, which is why they started the player with an AR, which does little to help, mainly because it throws you right in with the cryptids immediately. Getting power turned on is a hassle on its own, but the navigation isn't too good, and the fact that the Kung Fu zombies have been brought back and given their own boss round is almost inexcusable. The only way that takes away from the feeling of boredom with Cold War's gameplay is annoyance with the map's mechanics. The generators needed to turn on power are soul boxes, but zombies don't spawn in when you activate them. You just have to kill normal round zombies with them. Meaning, if someone isn't helping you with the generators, you'll be stuck standing there waiting to do nothing. The map didn't fix the issues of D Machine's Wonder Fizz, and now it just sits next to Pack, where there is no incentive to learn where the perks are because the game's Wonder Fizz mechanic is a joke. It's not random, it's just a bank for which you buy all the perks from, dumbing down the gameplay even further. Forsaken isn't as much a map as a bunch of disjointed areas taken from the campaign, tied together with a teleporting system. The map has no cohesion, not in its design, layout, or even in its enemies. It's just a hodgepodge of everything thrown together all at once with the hope that it'll wow the player. Every assortment of special enemies from the game all thrown into one map with no rhyme or reason. And the story is so lazily spoon-fed to the player, it's not even worth mentioning. As the final map in Cold War, it's only fitting it's just another military base from the campaign with zombies haphazardly thrown into it. An unbuttered piece of bread. That's exactly what D Machine is. It's food, it's entirely edible, but there's nothing special about it, nothing that stands out. For me, it doesn't matter that Noct is sitting right in the middle of the map. In fact, that's where I spend 90% of my time. D Machine is just bland, from its location, which has been done to death, its story, its atmosphere, its graphics. The only thing that's interesting is the Wonder Weapon. But an OP gun with infinite ammo doesn't mean much when everything else can be gotten infinite ammo from crates everywhere. Cold War's biggest problem with all its maps is that it's far too easy and not engaging in any meaningful way. Mauer ranks above the other Cold War maps for the sole reason of it being a remotely visually interesting location, as well as having a more creative Wonder Weapon. But other than the aesthetics of the map, the mechanics do little to make it stand out from the rest of the pack. There's more sense of scale here, but not enough to bring it out of mediocrity. There really isn't much to be said about BO1 Noct. The original was simple, with simple zombie mechanics, but BO1 is much harder, and without the 24 zombies per round, in solo it's not feasible to go to high rounds unless you're a really hardcore player. And again, besides the addition of the Thunder Gun, the box weapons aren't as cool as the World at War originals. The remaster of Shang is anything but. Now, the original was never a top-tier map to begin with, but this remaster is a downgrade in almost every way but graphics. The BO3 devs clearly didn't understand how the original was supposed to play. By removing PhD, which the original map was heavily relied on because it was so close quarters, the map is missing a lot of what made it fun. And the absolute butchering of the baby gun is a crime. They completely ruined it by making you get stuck on the zombies instead of running through them. And with the removal of PhD, the perk that replaced it doesn't mesh with the Wonder Weapon at all. The baby zombies trigger Widow's Wine explosions, as well as the Widow's Wine power-ups can be taken by the monkeys. They just brought back the map, but didn't realize how BO3 mechanics would jive with it. Now, Shang doesn't play at all how it's supposed to be. What is there to say that hasn't already been said about the original Noct? It laid the groundwork for the series, it introduced the ray gun, it was simple yet addictive. It's not a matter of it aging poorly, it's just that so many maps that have come later have been better. Noct is a simple experience, and that's all it needed to be. Verrückt for me is always a good time, no matter the version, but the truth is, one has to be lower than the rest. Now, Black Ops 1 should be better than the original. It really should, but it isn't. And the simple reason why is the box weapons. It's just a fact. World at War had better box guns than BO1. It just does. The lacking of the PPSH, Browning, and MG42 is a real shame. And putting the Winter's Howl on here didn't help at all. Despite not having the original Super Sprinters, the lack of 24 zombies around and no Pack-a-Punch just kind of leaves BO1 Verrückt behind, sort of forgotten. BO1 Shino falls into the same category as Verrückt, in that it's the same map as the original, but with worse box weapons. Shino Numa has been known in recent years for the insanely high rounds that have been achieved on it, but those weren't done on the BO1 version. Those were done on the World at War version, due to only having 24 zombies per round. Shino Numa in Black Ops 1 is a perfectly serviceable map, but the BO1 guns, you just wish it had a Pack-a-Punch. Every time I play Rave, I don't get much any sense of excitement. The layout doesn't excite me, the aesthetics don't excite me, the wonder weapons don't really excite me, and the slow ride you have to take every time to Pack-a-Punch gets old after just the first go. The Pack-a-Punch Island can be a fun training or camping spot, but nothing about Rave really stands out to me, and I don't ever feel inclined to want to play it. I also find the amount of paths that overlap to be convoluted and not having much flow at all. Noct in BO3 is a perfectly alright time. However, it feels a bit odd to have Wonder Fizz and Gobblegums put into this map, as I feel it takes away from what the original map was supposed to be. I can appreciate the returning additions brought by the BO1 version, having the Monkey Bombs and Thunder Gun, and bringing back the PPSH. It makes Noct a better time, but the slow spawns can get quite tiring after a while, and there's not really anything here for you to get that you can't get anywhere else. Altar of Blood does what every good survival map should do. It has all the perks, a single box, a small quest to get Pack-a-Punch, and a secret Easter egg to get the map exclusive Wonder Weapon. The Sword of Barbarossa was hyped up from the beginning of World War II Zombies, and it does not disappoint. Wielding this weapon is a ton of fun. That's what Altar of Blood is. Pure zombie killing fun. The layout may be kinda off, leading you to stay near Pack-a-Punch most of the game, but the ease at which the player can pick up and play this map is well worth hopping on for a few 20 rounds. The original Verrückt always surprises me. Surprises me with its challenge, its atmosphere, its innovation. The rush you get from the Super Sprinters is something few other maps have. Verrückt is scary and exhilarating. I find myself returning to this original more often than the other World at War maps. Due to the 24 zombies around limit in solo, this becomes a real test of particular skill when it comes to maneuvering the zombies into traps and getting through the rounds. The original Shino Numa still provides a decent survival experience. With it being much more open, it makes it much more accessible to come back to. The dogs provide a decent challenge in this version, and the Wunderwaffe makes it a big step up from Verrückt by having an infinite damage wonder weapon. The atmosphere is also top notch on this map, by far the best of the World at War offerings. Now, Duran Fong might be more objective-based zombies, but I will explain how I enjoy it far more than something like Cold War and Outbreak. Duran Fong's approach to the objective-based idea works much better now that all of the content has been added and updated. Instead of spawning into a giant open field, running to an objective, doing the objective, then running to a beacon just to teleport to another giant empty area and do it all over again, Duran Fong does it differently. It has instead a hub area which the box, Pack-a-Punch, perks, and the new features reside. So once an objective is done, you come back to the hub area, reveal more of the hub, giving access to more of the perks. meaning there is actual gameplay progression here. In addition, the book, which allows you to upgrade your specialist ability in-game as well, gives you the choice whether you want to gain new gameplay modifiers with the Covenants or upgrade your selected ability. If you are someone that actually likes objective-based zombies and are in the mood for it, you can actually have fun with Fong. I clearly did, otherwise I wouldn't have gotten to round 140 at one point and had the world record on this map. I was overtaken, of course, but the fast way in which you can beat an objective, immediately hop into the next one, can be some constant entertainment. The original Der-Riese is still fun. That's the key thing. Fun. While most older maps become outdated with time and with new innovations, Der-Riese's simple teleporting system and Pack-a-Punch gives such a level of replayability, as well as the numerous memorable areas to train and camp. However, the Wonderwaff glitch that takes away your jug really ruins this version of the map. There's almost no reason to come back to this one other than just to experience the original box weapons, but the fact that in solo, if you slip up with the main Wonder Weapon and you shoot it too close to yourself, you die in one hit. That's really unforgivable. While the BO3 version of Shi No Numa may not have the atmosphere and vibe of the original, it certainly has the gameplay. And of course, with the added amenities of Gobblegums and Wonder Fizz, it gives some well-deserved updates to this classic layout. I would have preferred a Pack-a-Punch rather than having to rely on pay-to-win gums, but I can make do with a map as replayable as Shino. Town is like the quintessential survival map. It has the majority of the perks you'd want, a great selection of weapons, Pack-a-Punch, and a bit of challenge with its layout, which adds a layer of complexity, but not to distract from the gameplay. The lava causes the player to be more agile on their toes when training, so despite it being a simple map, there's still a level of skill required to be good at it. The smallest zombie map ever, still packed with good features. Groston House is how you do a small survival map right. Give Jug and the Wonder Fizz, but also 2 side Easter eggs for players to do to give the map more replayability. One to get the mystery box, and another to make every gun in the box packed. This is the best solution to maps that don't have Pack-a-Punch. Give the players a side or secret Easter egg to make the box packed. The creativity of that alone, coupled with the unique layout of this map, makes it such a treat to revisit for some fun, compact zombie killing. I get almost nothing out of this map. Dreisendracht suffers from a wannabe syndrome. It takes elements from previous maps, but doesn't do anything new or interesting with them. The bows are just shallow rip-offs of the staves with less creativity and usability. The dragon heads are just repurposed from Mob of the Dead with the dogs, and the biggest problems is that the map layout is too small and has no flow at all. The color scheme is quite dull. There's nothing visually interesting for me here. Creativity goes a long way for me, and I would take Mob and Origins over this overrated Pretender any day. When you remaster a map, you have to account for how it will play in another game's engine. I feel that Ascension doesn't play as it once did when it's in Black Ops 3. The map flow is off, the monkeys sometimes never go for certain perks, and any perk gotten in the Wonder Fizz are impossible to lose because they never programmed the monkeys to attack it. They also for some reason ruined one of the best wall buys in the original. This location had an MP5K, and the Kuda that is supposed to be here is around the corner on a new spot that is directly on top of a zombie spawn, meaning that if you wanted to buy ammo mid-round, you'd become trapped. There was absolutely no reason to do this whatsoever. It's just one more thing in a list of annoyances I have with this version of this iconic map. The first survival map in the Tortured Path on its own is a fine map. It has the advantage over the others in that its layout is very spacious with plenty of room to train. The box selection contains every gun and melee weapon up to this point, so there's a lot of variety to be had. The term zombie killing playground is used a lot, but this map I feel fits the perfect description of that idea. There really isn't anything overtly wrong with Kino in BO3, but for some reason it just feels off. It doesn't have the same fun factor or replayability of the original, and I don't know why. Maybe it's the BO3 weapons, which aren't as interesting, or the color scheme not having the same atmosphere as the original. Whatever the reason is, if I wanted to go back and play Kino, this isn't the version I'd pick. Shang was never a bad map, but it is a difficult one. And not a fair kind of difficult, a borderline frustrating kind of difficult. On co-op, it's extremely difficult for the teammates without the wonder weapon. However, in solo, once you have the baby gun, it's much more consistent. However, just getting to that point can be a real hassle. The map has no training spots. It's a miracle that high rounders figured out ways of doing it, but it requires keeping certain doors closed and spawn manipulation. The average player isn't going to be able or willing to do that. The fact no traps that kill zombies exist on Shang really limits the map, I feel. However, the monkey mechanics are fantastic and can really be used to make the map more playable once you know how to use it and take advantage of it. Talk about a map with personality. From the location, to the aesthetics, to the soundtrack, and of course, the kung fu mechanics. With such an interesting idea for a wonder weapon, it's a lot of fun to punch, chop, and kick the zombies. Especially once you acquire the wonder weapon, the katana. This has to be the best feeling sword in all of zombies. The feeling of slicing zombies into butter cannot be matched. The only negatives would have to be the kung fu zombies, as they really make high rounds a frustrating experience. But since they don't really start showing up until the 30s, this map is much more appealing to players who just want to hop on for 45 minutes of zombie slashing. Mount Olympus is a fantastic survival experience. It takes the elements of the previous and gives it a quality of life change that makes it surprisingly fun to come back to, and that is the absence of the wustlings. Them not being on the map and having it close quarters gives the player much more freedom of movement. As well as the unique mechanic of the ship rocking back and forth, causing the cars to change and move location, it changes the layout of the map, giving some interesting dynamics to this overall simple experience. The Archon proved what I suspected when Vanguard first released, on how the mechanics would work on a round-based format. And it works quite well. Both the Archon and Shinonuma Reborn share the mechanical changes that make it more fun. The Altar of Covenants and its rotating, buyable abilities give such a level of customization to the gameplay. There are so many fun combinations you can use. This leans so much on replayability, it just boggles my mind why they didn't make this round-based map using these mechanics from the beginning. The Archon has to be looked at for what it is though. While the mechanics of upgrading your perks and specialist in game is great for the feeling of progression, the fact that the Archon is literally just Terra Maledicta's layout with an added wall where Pack-a-Punch is, that cannot be excused. However, just as a map, when removed from the circumstances of the time, coming back, it's quite a lot of fun. I feel so conflicted about this map, more than any other. On the one hand, it has one of the most interesting lineup of wonder weapons, one of the most creative Easter eggs, and challenging boss fights. This map contains my favorite Easter egg step ever, the spinning statue puzzle. I enjoy doing this so much, I don't even use a guide as it feels so rewarding to discover it out for yourself. And the rewarding blade weapon is good fun. It's just the layout of this map that brings it down. This is supposed to be the Shadowed Throne, but it feels more like the bombed out town. It's very underwhelming in that respect, and it shouldn't feel that way. But the fact that you have to do almost an entire Easter egg just to open up a decent training spot just highlights this problem even more. The map needed to be bigger, to feel more grand, because as it is, it feels way too small scale to be epic. And the Wonderbus weapon is a real letdown. It should be the standout of the map, but instead it just feels like a tool to do Easter egg steps. Talk about visually impressive. The Frozen Dawn is one of the most aesthetically pleasing maps in all of Zombies, which makes it stand out visually from the rest of the World War II maps. The map has a nice circular flow to it with a decent sized spawn room for training. Not to mention the wonder weapons. I really like when zombie maps focus on melee-based weaponry, and World War II does it in spades. I think these are some of the coolest wonder weapons out there. The new zombie type is creepy and sick looking, and the way it stalks the halls of the cave is very exhilarating when you see them. Frozen Dawn has plenty of content to keep the players busy, as well as a much improved layout from the Shadowed Throne, making it much more playable. Rev as a map is difficult to rank because it's not really a map. It's a collection of sections of older maps smashed together. And while that idea is neat, along with the abundance of returning weapons and themes, it leads to the map with little to no flow. The concept of the islands with older maps isn't even done well as it could have been. It's clear the islands are meant to represent all the games. The BO2 island with MARVIN Origins, the World at War island with Verrückt and Shinonuma, but the BO1 island is half-baked because there's Kino and Dreisendrach for some reason, which is quite lazy to have a reused area from a map from this game. It just feels cheap. And they could have still had an area with low gravity mechanic if they just used Moon, which was from BO1, so it could have worked. Revelations is a story-heavy, visually impressive experience, but in terms of innovation and gameplay, it's sort of lacking. Shadows is a map that has almost everything. Atmosphere, it has it. Soundtrack, it has it. Easter egg, it has it. Wonder weapon, it has it. And side quests, well, it has enough. My issue with Shadows that brings it down is the layout and the real lack of flow. While the teleporting system is fine enough when getting around, the tram is so out of the way it's practically useless, unless you're using it to get the Apothicon sword. The tight layout just isn't conducive to a good sense of game flow, and the idea of having a center building with 3 branching paths was done better on Shinonuma. Somehow the 4 areas were so much more distinctive than the districts on Shadows. I will give credit to the fact that the Apothicon Servant isn't as broken that it can kill the Margwa, and that you have to use the Civil Protector. That's clever, and I like that. I just wish the layout of the map was more open and gave the player more room to breathe. 9 is an okay map that suffers from the death of 1,000 cuts. I find the map to be so basic in its layout and in its design. The idea of taking place in a Roman Colosseum is awesome, however the map doesn't want to commit to that idea fully. Instead of a big, sprawling arena with chariots and mock structures about, it's one small circular area that serves as the spawn room. Which wouldn't be a problem if it wasn't the only place you'd be staying at for 90% of the game. All the buildings are basic, just 3 levels of square rooms leading down to a lower level that's just another big circle. The map has the most basic layout imaginable, yet it still manages to be frustrating. There are no fast travels on this map whatsoever. And that's a real problem when the shield location is deep underground, so when it breaks, and it will, you will have to run all the way down to the bottom of the map. No fast travels means you're running back and forth through those rooms you've already been to, meaning zombies can spawn ahead of you and cut you off. Speaking of, the amount of boss zombie spam is ridiculous. The fact the enemies with this much health can hit you from a distance is a terrible idea. And the tigers are just awful. I hate them almost as much as the EMZs. You can't one-shot them easily. They stalk around the map slowly, so unlike dogs, you'll never know if one is coming for you, and they can get you down to half health in one hit. So, if there's 2, you're instantly dead. The Wonder Weapon is also very underwhelming. It just doesn't kill well at all, and just holds zombies in place. I'm not even sure how this thing is supposed to work. 9 has a decent enough gameplay loop for the first 25 or so rounds, but once you get to the 30s, the amount of boss spam and catalyst is just too much and becomes virtually unplayable at points. 5 is a blast. Every time I return to it, I always have a good time. It's challenging, yes, and has a kind of annoying teleport system, but the layout is one of the most unique ever. The cast of real-life politicians are hilarious as well, especially if you're a history buff. While the Wonder Weapon may not have infinite damage, the traps do. High rounds on this map are some of the most compelling and tech-heavy in all of Zombies. Training in the War Room is tons of fun, and the Pentagon Thief is one of the most engaging boss zombies of all time. The dynamic and way the player approaches the situation completely changes, and the ultimate reward for outsmarting him is fantastic. The only criticism I have is the lack of perks in the labs. as well as any real sense of game flow down there. It can be quite the death trap on higher rounds. They really should have put Meal Kick down there when they added it to the map. Blood retains so much of what made Mob fun, as well as plenty of its own. The map is beautiful, the new areas are fun to be in, and the returning elements are amazing. As well as the new additions such as the Magma Gat and the Spectral Shield. As Black Ops 4 has a large focus on the shield, putting more importance on it is welcome. However, there are just 2 issues that hold Blood back from being a truly great map, which is a shame. The map is just too big. There are way too many areas of the map that are redundant, and traversing the map can be such a pain. Even the fast travels don't do much to help because they are placed in such out-of-the-way spots where you don't ever usually go to. If the docks were removed, it would help this map's flow so much, as well as put more focus on the 2 new areas, the lab and the warden's house. And the Pack-a-Punch is very annoying. Not to get, but to find once you get it. The pack moves, but it's completely random when it moves, and there is no indication where it moves. And there are 3 very endpoints on the map: the dock, the roof, and the lab, and pack goes to all 3 of those locations. The map's flow would work so much better if you just knew where pack was. Then you wouldn't be running around the map like a buffoon half the time. Call of the Dead's simplicity is matched only by its difficulty. The map is large, but it never feels too big. It has great set pieces as well as challenge. George Romero poses a great continuous threat that looms over you. No map has this kind of boss zombie. Call of the Dead really would be a top tier map if it wasn't for the lack of an infinite damage wonder weapon. Because training on this map is amazing and the design is fantastic. It's just that one single blemish that truly holds the map back for me. Had the scavenger done infinite damage, if only. A disappointing downgrade in all aspects but graphics. And even the grit and lighting on the original map is completely gone here. BO3 Origins doesn't play at all like its original and is inferior in all aspects, especially in the stabs. They completely neutered and butchered the stabs here and made their unupgraded versions very bad and their upgraded versions so finicky to use. The mud slows you down even more in this version, and the Panzer is broken with way too much health for some reason. All of the unique box weapons are gone from the original, and PhD is no longer in the Wonder Fizz. It may still be Origins, but it's gimped, neutered, with none of the unique weapons or fun glitches the original had. The fun that can be had either camping or training in the spawn room here is tenfold. The classic layout lends itself quite well in BO3's engine, which is more than I can say for a number of the BO3 remakes. However, there are just 2 problems, both revolving around perks. The fact that all the perks are randomized is an annoyance that wasn't even present in the original, so why is it here? And secondly, the fact that it's random if you get stamina or deadshot or not is a badly designed mechanic. You either get one of the best perks or the absolute worst. Spaceland is one of the most creative maps out there. Its full commitment to the theme is impressive, along with the perks, traps, and wonder weapons. The ticket system provides a lot of depth to the gameplay as a separate form of currency to buy special items and rewards. The map's flow is great with paths that all lead into each other and teleporters that can be set to get out of tricky spots. Spaceland is just an overall fun time. Kino is a classic map, but a bit derivative of Doris. It has the same perks and teleporting concept, just simplified. The Thunder Gun is fantastic, and like the Wunderwaffe, it can't make drops, so there's a bit of balance to it. However, the Nova Crawlers really are an annoying boss zombie to deal with if you don't have the Wonder Weapon, and can take a lot of enjoyment away from the map. Talk about an improvement. BO1 Doris has every wall gun the original had, and with the BO1 guns in the box, with a Pack-a-Punch, the map is much more playable. But that's not the reason why it's so much better. Quick Revive works in solo, and the Wunderwaffe glitch no longer exists, making this a patched version of the OG masterpiece. As well as BO1 having better movement than World at War, the game just flows and feels so much better. Moon BO3 has the atmospheric, graphical, and bug fixes you'd expect from a remaster. However, I feel it misses the mark in having the gameplay of the original, much of the ways Shangri-La's remake failed to have the gameplay of the original, but not to that extent. The ability to do the Easter egg solo is a great quality of life improvement, however, the flow of the map is not. The spawn system in BO3 does not match the layout of Moon whatsoever. It can be exploited as well, such as Tunnel 11. The map may still be Moon, but it doesn't play good enough, especially on Area 51. It can be easily exploited. As the spawn system is so jank, all the zombies just spawn on one point and fall into a straight line. The audio is also completely messed up. The ambience and quiet of the spacesuit is gone. The dialogue, which is supposed to come through the helmet radio as well as the muffled sounds of the weapons and the ability to hear radios, is completely lost. I'm not sure if this was bad sound mixing or just a fundamental misunderstanding of how the audio was done on the original map. The map may have one confusing layout, however, once you learn it and know how it works, Voyage is one very unique experience. The map has a fast-paced feel to it. Getting to high rounds is invigorating and lots of fun. The Wonder Weapon is also a very unique case, as you can kill Catalyst zombies, you take the parts from them, and upgrade the Wonder Weapon into different elemental versions. So the map always has an ever-changing element to its gameplay, whether it's core survival, an Easter egg, or side quests. A perfect example of a small map done right. The Darkest Shore has one of the simplest layouts and yet is packed full of content. The Wonder Weapon is so interesting, a cross between a gun and a saw. Also, the fact it doesn't take up a gun slot is very convenient. The spawn room and the sub-pens provide great areas for training, and the Pack-a-Punch is one of the best camping spots in all of Zombies. The fact you can buy ammo for any packed gun, it gives all the box guns so much longevity and replayability. Darkest Shore has a fantastic atmosphere, and the boss rounds when the fog rolls in can get quite tense for new players. What Ascension does well is give the player the freedom of large open areas for training, but still providing a challenge, as while the regular rounds are spent moving constantly, the special rounds are spent defending the perk machines from the monkeys. These two different styles of gameplay give the map a very distinct type of playstyle that the player will need to adapt to and account for. What makes Die Rise special is the many ways it can be played. The way the map is structured may be difficult to navigate, but it isn't difficult to play once you're settled. The amount of places the player can either camp or train are numerous. You can camp in the Buddha room, or train, or camp on the roof, or train. Or if one player is training in the building, one can be completely unaffected by the others potentially running their train or camping somewhere else. The freedom to play how you want is something Die Rise does well. And the Wonder Weapon, the Slokifier, is one of the best of all time. The ease of use, as well as utility and killing capability, makes it one of the best Wonder Weapons to get the player to round 100. The Trample Steam is a great buildable that expertly ties into navigation of the map and can help the player in not only traversing the map better, but also killing zombies and the special bosses, the Jumping Jacks.
I fell for you, and I knew the vision of your love's loveliness. I hope and I pray that someday I'll be the vision of your happiness. Whoa, 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 earth angel, please be mine, my darling dear, love you for all time. I'm just a fool in love with you.
Moon is a challenge. but a fun one when you have friends. The layout and spectacle is good on this one, though the map's mechanics can be a turnoff at times. The concept of the spacesuit and the hacker are very creative. It gives the player a choice to play safer and be rewarded with a fun feature, or safe with more freedom of movement. The issues come from the difficulty of having Jug or getting to Jug if you lose it, as you'll have to teleport all the way back to Area 51, which is fun, but a lot of areas on the map are tight and can trap the player like the labs. The Moon Man is another boss that can be a pain at times, as he'll take your perks if he grabs you. The tension is always high on this map, as one mess up can sink the game. Buried is the ultimate casual experience. It gives you all the tools and lets you have all the fun. The creativity with this map in terms of layout, aesthetics, and wonder weapons is fantastic. The Easter egg is one of the best co-op experiences, and the ability to choose where the wall weapons go is incredibly inspired. The Leroy mechanic of a friendly roaming AI that you can interact with has never been done in Zombies since, which is surprising because of how well it's handled here. No map plays like Buried, and no map has the uniqueness and replayability that it has. The amount of freedom and the way to play how you want. That's why I love Attack. The way the map is laid out, you can camp, you can train, you can play however you want, anywhere. 4 players could all be training on this map by themselves and never be affected by another person's train. The aesthetic of this map is one of my favorites. It's like pre-nuke Transit, but with a whole host of buildables that are actually effective, fun, and can kill zombies and even get you to high rounds. As well as a wonder weapon that interacts with the map and allows you to get more ammo and parts for it. The amount of ways I can play this map gives me such an incentive to come back and replay it again and again. Once you know it, this map provides that classic style of simple gameplay that Kino and Ascension gave us back when they came out. When it comes to maps that tell a subtle story through gameplay, Mob is amazing. But when it comes to that actual gameplay, it's just good. Don't get me wrong, the map layout is superb, the side quests are some of the most memorable and provide the best rewards in all of Zombies, and the customization of the wonder weapon is still fun to this day. Mob's only drawbacks are the lack of perk variety. There are only 5 perks on this map, which is kind of surprising when you think about it, and nobody is going to pick Deadshot over Electric Cherry or Speed Cola. Because of the size of this map, it desperately needs stamina. Also, the tediousness of having to refuel the plane with all the gas cans every time you want to go to Pack-a-Punch can be tiring. It sometimes even acts as a deterrent of playing the map casually, but going for a long game session or the Easter egg is never a bad time. Now this is how you do a remake. Not a lazy remaster with barely any new added content or features, but a fully remade experience. Shin Onuma Reborn proved that Vanguard's mechanics could and does work in a round-based setting. This isn't another port of Shin Onuma. No, it's a fully fleshed out map. The map is dripping in atmosphere and character, separate from the previous versions, with the dark, occult-like aesthetics everywhere. The game's perk system is expertly used here, as the perks must be continuously upgraded to their final tier. This encourages the player to come back to all 4 of the huts, ensuring movement and that for the first 30 rounds the player isn't going to be staying in just one place. With all the added features and content, every single path has significance and importance, as well as a completely new area, the dig site, situated between the comms room and storage. 2 areas that in previous versions saw the least amount of travel. But the biggest innovation is the addition of not only Pack-a-Punch, but an Easter egg, multiple side quests, and a wonder weapon quest to acquire the Wonder Waff. Shin Onuma Reborn is what so many ports of previous maps failed to be. A true, updated, new, and replayable experience. Verrückt BO3 is everything I want out of a small map. It's simple but challenging, the gameplay is fast and invigorating, the weapon selection is fantastic, and the map layout is challenging yet rewarding to players who know how to navigate it well. I made an entire video discussing this map and why I like it in depth. Link is in the description. The map that has so much good and so much bad. But the good outweighs the bad here. The wonder weapons, the story, the characters, the side quests, and the Easter egg are fantastic. Absolutely awesome. But the layout, boss zombies, and pack-a-punch mechanics are ridiculously annoying to the point of almost being awful. For me, I see the annoyances as a challenge rather than an outright negative. Acquiring the ray gun variants and unlocking the traps on the map is so much fun. The map may be a bit of a guilty pleasure, but I find myself replaying the map so often, I can't lie, I love it. I also made a video specifically talking about this map too. Link is also in the description. An amazing map. That's how I would describe Go Rod. It has great mechanics, challenging bosses, fantastic spectacle, and creative weapons. The visuals and soundtrack are also incredible. Avoiding the dragon is always exciting, and the returning PPSH really does a lot for this map, including the Raygun Mark III, which is a different but welcome take on the Raygun formula. The Pack-a-Punch area is a fantastic holdout building, reminiscent of classic zombies. There is something here for almost every kind of player. It's just a shame that Widow's Wine doesn't have its own perk machine, and the fact that there's only one door out of spawn, meaning you have to backtrack the whole map to get there, or take the Pack-a-Punch all the way around the horn. Classified is how you do a remake. Improve it in every way. Gameplay improved, layout improved, weapons improved, perks improved, teleporting system improved, and wonder weapon improved. The Winner's Howl is not only given more ammo and damage, but when packed, because of the health cap, it can kill forever. I'd say that's a pretty big improvement from the original. From the worst wonder weapon to top tier. The pack system is also amazing, taking one of the most unique parts of Moon and using it as the pack area with its own mechanics is fantastic. If the player survives long enough, they are rewarded with less and less debris in no man's land, eventually leading to a completely flat open area and one of the best training spots in all of zombies. Classified also contains a wonder weapon quest to acquire the new and improved Winner's Howl as well, and has a high round Easter egg for hardcore players. The only thing Classified lacks is the Pentagon Thief, which his absence just makes the original 5 more unique and doesn't invalidate going back and playing the original. Ancient is the example of theming and creativity done right. A map with more character than most, a well-woven story, a great soundtrack, and iconic wonder weapons. The cinematic nature of this map, once Pegasus is written, is fantastic, opening up a whole secondary area unique from the main map. The wonder weapon quests and Easter egg is fantastic, and the amphitheater is one of the best training spots in the game. The standouts are the Gauntlet wonder weapons, especially the Blood Gauntlet. Camping has never been this fun. Ancient Evil has so much detail put into it and is such a quality experience. The only thing it doesn't have are any side quests. Grand. That's what Origins feels like. From the scale of the map to the aesthetics, wonder weapons, and Easter egg. While setting up may take a bit for some players, the payoff is worth it. From the great selection of box weapons, as well as the additional unlocks from challenges. Origins rewards players who put the time into the map. The stabs and their upgraded versions are some of the most creative as well as fun wonder weapons to acquire. Origins has something for the players looking for a rewarding experience. Every aspect of the Final Reich was done masterfully, from the aesthetics to the layout to the wonder weapons and the Easter egg. The idea of having a launch map that gives you a step-by-step notebook for the main egg, but not the wonder weapons, was ingenious, while still having a hardcore Easter egg for players looking for a challenging run. The town and the bunker provide such a great and dark contrast for each other, showing the evils just beneath the surface. The set of wonder weapons being based off the Tesla gun, this game's equivalent to the ray gun, was a great idea. And each of the quests give a decent challenge and reward to the players. The boss fight is my personal favorite in all of Zombies. Having this hulking monstrosity chasing you that you can't feasibly damage on your own and needing to think outside the box is just perfect. The Final Reich is the perfect launch map, and all future launch maps should strive to have this level of content, depth, and replayability. Zetsubo is the best map in Black Ops 3. It is the ultimate experience Blundell ever gave us, subtle yet satisfying. The map is immaculately crafted. The Wonder Weapon is amazing. The bosses are fun to fight. The Easter egg is simple yet rewards the players with the best camping spot ever. The map has so much content on it, more than any other map in the game. From the challenges, Wonder Weapon upgrade, Spider Bait, Friendly Thrasher, and the secondary Spider boss fight. The depth is everywhere, especially in the plant system, expanding on the digging concept and then taken to the nth degree. So many combinations, so many things to get and do. Zetsubo is the ultimate replayable map in Black Ops 3 by a long shot. It's like a fine wine that only gets better with age. Dead of the Night has it all. Content, bosses, character, and the best Easter egg. I've done it over 35 times for a reason. There is so much amazing content and depth to this map, much like Zetsubo. It has an amazing aesthetic and atmosphere, a near perfect layout with a fast travel at the end of all three paths so the player never gets trapped. There are so many side quests to unlock so many things, and even a new melee and secret secondary wonder weapon that can kill the vampires in one shot and the werewolves in less than one clip. The Alistair's Annihilator is one of the most creative and fun wonder weapons ever made. With its rotating abilities, it's always fun to see what you get. The map's Easter egg flows so well with the gameplay, and it's so fun to run. The map has spots for camping like the bedroom and training like the Great Hall and Library. A map with this much creativity with its bosses, story, Easter egg, and fun characters, it's almost impossible not to get wrapped up in this haunted mansion. Every time I play the map, I do every single thing on it because it's so rewarding. That's the key thing. All the setup and side quests and tasks are rewarding to the player because of what they give you. It just comes so close to being the perfect map, and I love it. But what is the perfect map? What is my number one? You want to know? Well, tune in next video, and I'll show you.